What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the RPS Around the Rim NBA DFS show. I am your host again, JSU, and I'm bringing back two of my boys. First off, we got Big T. Big T, what's up, brother?
What's going on? Yeah, we pushed the show back a little bit, and I'm glad we did because if we didn't, that 11 o'clock show would have been a waste of an hour because we got a bunch of news after that. And now, we got a bunch of news. It turned into a pretty straightforward slate, I think. We'll dive into it game by game like always, but, man, we got some big news already out of the gate, so a lot to dive into today.
Yeah, no doubt. And then we're bringing back Hoop. Hoop's our cash game guy, got his cash core, I think, up already. Hoop, what's going on, man?
And the cash core is going to be altered as soon as I get off the show because, like Tony said, we in terms of the show, we ran pretty good with the news. So we got basically everything we need for the slate besides like the Nuggets news. But honestly, at this point, I don't think that really matters. We get LeBron out. That's super, super important, and Westbrook out. Super important, and that kind of dictates the slate. And like Tony said, it's going to make some guys super, super popular and some guys that are very hard to fade. We're going to have some very high ownership on guys across the board today for the right reason. But we'll dive in and go game by game. A couple of these games, though, we're going to probably just cross right off. Because the slate is so straightforward. There's just a very clear direction in which you want to go today, and we'll obviously touch on that.
Yeah, no doubt. And we got Marcus King in the chat. He says Big T and JSU got stiffies up for MPJ. Yeah, we do. He was in our core like the past two slates he was on, and he just absolutely smashed. So you can for sure book that. Right, Tony?
How would we not? How would anyone not? Honestly, he was unbelievable.
If you like MPJ and you've been talking about him, you're walking around with wood, permanent wood, and I'm right there with you, boys. I've played him, and it has felt good. He is, man, so good. I just can't wait for the playoffs to come around and Tony's favorite coach in the NBA to play him 18 minutes. That's going to be entertaining.
Oh God, Hoop. He was telling me saying this before the show too. What I'm hoping here is, the only news we don't have is the Nuggets news. What I'm hoping is everyone takes these value pieces, they start plugging in, they start paying up for multiple studs. They forget about this guy because they may be worried about, these other Nuggets playing and how it'll affect his minutes. And then we can get this guy. Somehow we can get him at a little lower ownership. He would have been massive chalk today, right? Can we just agree on that, right?
Yeah.
I can't figure out how he dropped that monster game. Comes back, he's not even that much more. He was free the first game, but he wasn't even priced up very much the next game, and he wasn't even that high owned. I still can't believe it. The Nuggets have no scoring besides Jokic. He's going to have to score. His price really didn't move again. He's way too cheap coming off back-to-back 50 pieces. It's very, very simple. I don't know how you don't play him.
One other thing. So we've got WV Hills in the chat, and poking fun at me is fine. He says JSU laughed at Wanamaker. I did laugh at Wanamaker.
Yeah, and who gave him out, JSU?
But you know what? He had a good game, and I'll give Tony props for it because he was in Tony's core, not my core. Yes, he was. Not anyone else's core. He was in Tony's core. Mm-hmm. So shout out to Big T for the Brad Wanamaker call.
Too bad we only got 3/4 of the starters, though. It would have been a good night.
That was painful.
Tony, did we not have the nuts last night? You had Wanamaker. I didn't, but I think we would have the nuts if that game was close.
I was way up the leaderboard in the 600 or whatever the bigger one was, and I had 6 dudes in that game. It was painful not to get that fourth quarter run.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, shout out to you for, having the balls to play Brad Wanamaker in your main team.
You shouldn't even get credit for. If you play a 3K guy and he in that spot, I can't even take a victory lap. It was too easy of a play.
No, you can, because what was his percentage? What was his ownership?
I don't know why people didn't play him. He was 3K, but that's beside the point.
All I've heard is it's so easy to have the optimal team in NBA and all this stuff, and it's just what I've heard, from others. It's.
I wish he was back on the slate again today so that we could fit all these stars up top. I'd take Wanamaker again today.
Tony, we have plenty of value on this slate. I don't think we
don't have a 3K point guard against Brooklyn, though. I like 3K point guards against Brooklyn a lot.
This is true. All right, so let's dive in, boys, because we got a pretty good slate. A lot of news has broke, like Tony said. Good thing we pushed the show back because it would have been useless if we did the show at 11. We're going to start with one of the teams that has some guys out. Miami versus Milwaukee. Miami is the main team where we've got a bunch of value. Kelly Olynyk smashed last time out. We've got Goran Dragic. I think he's still questionable. Tony, what are we doing with this?
Yeah, so it's just going to depend on a lot of the news as far as if we get anything later. I mean, I kind of just want to stay away from this spot. Kelly O's looked really good, but his price is up there a little higher. I mean, he's like 1,000 higher on DK. We haven't heard anything about Dragic yet?
No, and he did come back into the game after the injury, I'm pretty sure, when he was playing last time when he got the injury. But I don't see why the Heat would play him. If he really is somewhat nicked up, why not just give him the rest? They've got a bunch of guards. They're pretty deep, right? They don't need him. So, I mean, I don't know. Take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, we just have so many good spots later in the night that I just don't want to force an early piece in there unless I absolutely love it. So if some news hits in this spot, I mean, like Nunn would be a really good play if Dragic was somehow out. Hero is still pretty cheap. I mean, he's okay, but again, I think there's going to be a lot of really good plays later in the night, depending on what happens and what starters we get in spots and stuff like that. But this game's just ugly to me. I mean, Milwaukee is so deep. They're going to play a ton of guys now that everything's locked up for them for the most part. You could play Giannis if you really wanted to, but I can't play him over guys like Luka and Harden and these guys because, I mean, he's going to play at the very ceiling 30 minutes. Like he could play like 20 like last game, and I wouldn't be surprised. So I think some people will play Giannis just because it's Giannis. I think he just faded, and I don't know how you could play any other Milwaukee guys like unless you had a strong stance on one of the scrub guys getting minutes or something like Marvin Williams or something like that. But I definitely wouldn't spend salary on this team. And Miami, same way. I'm pretty much off this game unless you guys talk me into somebody.
Yeah, well, Hoop, can you talk Tony into anyone on this Miami side?
Yeah, I'm a little higher on the Miami side. Like we kind of talked about before the show. I mean, this Bucks team, I think, is a good team to just, for the most part, fade until the playoffs start. Like if they have the opportunity to pull the plug on their starters, they're going to do it. Any opportunity they get, like they're not going to push any of these guys. So when they're all playing, like easy fade. And then on the Miami side, I'm pretty high. Like assuming Dragic's out, I see no reason why he plays. Like I think Nunn's a really good play. Tyler Hero is a value option to consider. Olynyk you can also consider, but you're just going to have to mix and match because, we're going to want some of those big names in the late game that we'll also talk about. So you just got to find the right value. Jay Crowder, I think, is somewhat interesting. And then Bam Adebayo, I really like quite a bit. Like his price is pretty fair on DraftKings. I don't think the Bucks necessarily blow out the Heat here. Like I said, I just don't expect the Bucks to really push it in any game. But yes, they're good enough. Yes, their bench is good enough to go ahead and blow somebody out, but expect it to be relatively close. And, Adebayo is probably their best way to keep it close. So I'll be on him and maybe some of these other values. I mean, Nunn would be my favorite, assuming Dragic is out.
All right. So you like Nunn. I mean, for me, before we got all this news, I was more interested, I think, in this game than I am now. Now I'm more interested in the later game. But I do think that if you get Goran Dragic out, Kendrick Nunn obviously becomes a value at his price. Tyler Hero becomes a little better play. Andre Iguodala at 3,300. He's really cheap if you needed a punt from this game. I just don't think I'm going to be super heavy. Like I'm not going to have a ton of these cheap guys in my lineup together because I think I want more of the value in the other games. But I will have pieces of it. I just don't think I'm going to have a bunch of it like stacked up against, because then I would want to bring it back with Giannis. And now I don't think I want to have Giannis. Like I think that now I kind of want to stay away from Giannis, even though I will say if Giannis gets 30 minutes, he could smash in 30 minutes. Like I have no worries as long as the only thing is we don't know, do they rest the starters in the second half or do they not? Like they did it against the Nets, but I assume that was because the Nets played nobodies and they were like, okay, we'll just, play them half and then, rest them in the second. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm not as high though on this game as I was.
That's a great breakdown. Cash game versus tournaments, and in tournament or cash games, we're not worried about the correlation really. A value is a value. So you can go ahead and play a guy like Nunn. You can play Adebayo if you think he's a good value. You don't have to worry about coming back with it on the other side, which you obviously should be doing in tournaments like JSU touchdown. So that's a very good point.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when we talk about having some values, it's always, good. If you like the values and there's multiple values, you take them and maybe the stud on that team and you stack them up. You always want to bring it back, in my opinion, most times. But I think we hit on this game pretty good, boys. Tony, anything else before we move on?
No, I mean, yeah, I'm off it for the most part, so no.
All right, so let's move on. We got Indiana Pacers versus the Phoenix Suns. Interesting here. We got TJ Warren. He is going for, what is it? His third straight 32 or more point game. Guys had at least 49 or more fantasy points in all 3 games. What is going on with TJ Warren? I mean, he is unconscious from 3. He was 9 for 12, 1 for 6, and 4 for 5 in his 3 games. I mean, 9 for 12. He's not shooting the ball this good. It can't continue. Tony, please. 8,400 TJ Warren?
I mean, it's tough to say to fade him, though. He's not like a core piece for me or anything, but you guys know how I am with streaks and stuff, and he's just looked so good. I mean, next to MPJ, maybe even more impressive than MPJ. He's just been so good in the bubble. He's always been a hooper too, so this style kind of fits him. Even back to where'd he go? NC State, I think. He's always been just a true hooper. So you get him in this bubble, no crowd, nothing, just playing basketball. He gets buckets. It's what he does. His price is way up now. People are taking notice of him. Definitely not a core piece or anything, but I don't think if you're playing like 10 teams and you're fading him, like I think you're crazy. You got to play some of them when he's this hot. So, yeah, I mean, not a fade, but not a core piece, if that makes sense. And then the other Indiana pieces, though, you got Miles Turner pretty cheap, Oladipo pretty cheap. I could definitely make a case for these type of guys, especially against Phoenix. Phoenix doesn't play much D. And then the other way, Ayton and Booker are always in play for me. I mean, the bigs like Ayton have just destroyed Indiana. I don't understand why. Miles Turner just can't move his feet very well. So a guy like Ayton's slow-footed too, though. So I'll be interested to see how that matchup shakes out. They both might just destroy the other. A nice little kind of combo you could play both of them and just hope they destroy each other, which I think easily could happen on this slate. Booker always in play, but a little tougher spot for Booker, I think, with all these guards back for Indiana. Indiana looks pretty much full strength. So again, I don't think I have any core pieces in this game, but there is some pieces that I want to play a few of these guys across my teams.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about DeAndre Ayton. I think he's a great play today. Miles Turner has a fair price. With TJ Warren, I would say if you're stacking this game, you definitely don't want to leave him out of your stack. That's for sure. Like, he's definitely not a core piece for me. But I get what Tony's saying. And if I'm stacking this game, I will definitely have TJ Warren in my lineup in the stack, but I'm probably not going to have a ton of him overall, just because of his price. But Hoop, why don't you talk about this game and anything you like?
Yeah, I think it's a good game to target for like tournaments. I just don't see much ownership here outside of Ayton. I think Ayton will be by far the most popular piece of this game. Really good price tag across the industry. So he's a guy to consider for cash games. Probably the only cash type play in this game. But I mean, it's got 230 total. Spread is 2, so high scoring. They have guys on both sides, obviously, that can put up big fantasy points. So I think getting some exposure in tournaments is a good idea. I mean, not going to be core pieces, and it doesn't need to be a core because, we're talking about low ownership plays, and there's a lot of upside. So Ayton for cash games, and then maybe a couple of these other pieces for tournaments. They all should be pretty low owned. I mean, you got guys like Booker who can put up a ton, like Brogdon. His price is pretty fair. This Cam Johnson guy's been playing good. There's a lot of options. Rubio. So you can go a lot of different ways. Ayton in cash, and then some of these other pieces in tournaments.
Yeah, and Hoop, I saw a question in the chat, and I want you to touch on it. Someone asked, Hoop, are you only playing one lineup in cash lineups, or are you hedging? So do you play multiple lineups in cash, or do you just play one?
Never, just one. I mean, some people do it. I think it's probably one of the dumbest things you can possibly do if you're hedging cash games. I mean, the margins are already super thin to win or lose. Like it's, your ROI in cash games it's small. So by hedging, you're just bringing more rake and more, site commissions into play, and it makes it harder to beat. So I would say never, ever hedge in cash games. Some people might have a different opinion on that. I know high stakes players that like to hedge in cash games. It's not my style, never has been, and I just don't see it mathematically as the optimal route to go.
Yeah, good. That's, always we get questions about this, and Hoop is obviously, one of the best cash players, in DFS. And, I'm sure it's a question that you've been asked before, and I just saw it in chat, and I want you to hit on it. Because, I agree with you. I don't understand why you would do it. No. But I don't play cash. But again, I don't get why you would even think about that. From this game, though, on the Indiana side, the one thing that does worry me a little bit is, with Brogdon and Oladipo, Brogdon's questionable. I don't know if he's going to play. I assume he's going to play. If he is, it's really tough with him and Oladipo kind of sharing the ball, because both kind of need the ball in their hands to kind of get it done. They both coming off pick and rolls, and going to the hoop and dishing, and it's just tough when it's spread out. I wish that it wasn't as spread out. I wish one of these guys was like the main ball handler, but it doesn't work that way. They both kind of share the duties when they're on, and it affects both of them fantasy wise. And you can see it when they're both on the court, because most of the time they both don't get there. So I would tend to side with the cheaper of the two if I had to pick one, but it does just worry me in general. If I was stacking this game, I would only have one of these guys. But that's just the way I would look at that. Everyone else, though, like Turner and Warren in my stack, that's fine. From the Suns side, it would be Ayton and Booker. And if you needed a cheap piece, I guess Cam Johnson, just because he's seeing crazy minutes, like 37, 38 minutes. Like, he's not like the greatest player, but he's not bad either. And if you're seeing that many minutes, you're at least worth a look, right? So I totally get him. Outside of that, I think it's a tournament stack, a game to stack in tournaments, but that's about it. Tony, anything else? No? Nothing? Okay, yeah. He's got nothing for us. So let's move on. We've got the Los Angeles Clippers versus the Dallas Mavericks. This is an interesting game. Luka Doncic, it seems like they're rolling him out for 40 minutes a night. They need to win these games. This is like one of the teams where these games are very important for them. And I could see them just continuing to roll Luka Doncic out for 38 minutes a night, every game for this whole, 8-game stretch. And I think from a cash side, this isn't the best matchup, right? Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are really good defenders. They're going to mix and match. Both will kind of be on them a little bit. But it is one thing to have a guy with a floor and a safety that's playing. You know for a fact he's playing 37, 38 minutes, right, Hoop?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, he's a great player. This is what makes it tough tonight now that we got this news. So you got Westbrook out. We obviously want to play Harden. We got LeBron James out. We obviously want to play Anthony Davis. And then you have Luka sitting there in a phenomenal spot, going to play a ton of minutes in a good matchup, I think. The total's up there. It's going to be high scoring, and he's going to play. Yes, the Clippers have some good defenders. I don't care. This guy's good. So, actually, isn't Pat Beverly out, right?
He is out, yes.
So that's one one less defender to have to worry about. So love him here. I think he comes in way lower owned than Brow and Harden. So I think he's a great pivot, just a straight. Easy straight pivot. Same price basically as those two guys. Get off the popular ones, go to the low owned ones. I think that's one of the best things. I'm not a tournament guy. You guys are tournament guys, but in tournaments, I think just swapping off studs is one of the best things you can do, especially when a couple studs are going to have super high ownership. can easily just go to the other one and get low ownership. I mean, all these guys, I mean, for the most part, have the same ceiling, and they can all get there most nights, regardless of matchup. So really like him as a tournament pivot off those other guys that I think are going to be way more popular.
Yeah, I like that take. Interesting. You think he's going to be way lower owned than Anthony Davis and James Harden. I am going back and forth on that. Now, we got to remember, recency bias is a big thing. People are going to see the minutes he plays. He went off, obviously, last game. But you're right. I think in this scenario, he may end up being the third highest owned out of these three guys. And if that's the case, I think he's my pivot in tournaments, Tony. I mean, I think Hoop just talked me into it as him as my pivot. I'm kind of shocked that he's even a pivot, because I think you can make this case that he's still the top play on this slate.
Yeah, he's just been off the charts good. You click his name, and he's played. Let me see the exact minutes. He's played 42, 38, and 44 minutes in the bubble, and I'm pretty sure the 38 game he had a little bit of foul. I think he had foul trouble. Oh no, he fouled out.
And one of them was overtime.
Yeah, he fouled out in the Houston game, so I was wrong on which one he found out. But point being, he's going to play a ton of minutes. I don't love the matchup, but we have so much value in this slate that to be honest, I might play all three of those guys, like Luka, Harden, and Anthony Davis. There's just so much value. There's unlimited value on the slate, so I really don't see a reason not to. And you got, I don't want to play Kawhi and Paul George that much, just because now they got Lou Will back. Beverly is out, but I don't know. I just never play these guys. You could play it if you're in the mid-range, but the Clippers don't really care about this game. I don't know. I think Dallas wants it more, so I would rather just pay, an extra $2,500, $2,600 and play Luka in a scrub rather than one of those guys in the mid-range. So, well, I think the more interesting guy in the game for me, though, is Porzingis. He's looked really good, too, and he's kind of cheap. I mean, $8,500 on DK. I don't think he's going to be that popular just because of the other guys on the slate. I have a little interest in Porzingis here. Dallas needs this game. Dallas does not want to finish in that 7-hole somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Dallas does need this game. Porzingis, I think he's a good tournament pivot, right? I don't think he's going to be very highly owned. I think everyone's going up to these studs. I mean, like on FanDuel, it's even a joke. Like, you can easily fit 3 studs in your lineup on FanDuel. Like, it's just, I've already done it. Like, it's very simple. Yeah. But even DK, I'm sure there's a way with all this value that you can fit 3 in there. I don't know how the lineups look, but I'm sure there's a way. Outside of those two, though, I think I'm off anyone else from Dallas. Like, I'm not going to play Tim Hardaway. From the Clippers side, I think it'd be Paul George for me, or Lou Williams for cheap, and that's about it. I'm not playing Kawhi. I just rather pay up for other guys on the slate. Hoop, anything else that you liked outside of Luka?
Kawhi is really cheap on FanDuel. He's like 8.4K. I just think that's too cheap.
Kawhi's only 8.4 on FanDuel. Wow.
Yeah, that's too cheap.
Yeah,
it's 8.4K on FanDuel, and that's just like just a talent price point too cheap play. You just play him there. That's the one thing that stands out. And then Reggie Jackson, like, no one's really talking about him. I mean, I know Lou Williams is back. He only played 20 minutes though, and Reggie Jackson's going to draw the start, and he's pretty cheap without Pat Beverly. So I have some interest in him. It's just hard though. I mean, we got a lot of value to talk about in these later games. So we'll see. But I think he's a guy you can throw in the mix.
And he's 4K on FanDuel. So like, as opposed to DraftKings, where he's much higher price on DraftKings, I'm pretty sure, than on FanDuel. So I think he's more of a FanDuel play, and a solid FanDuel play at that at 4K. But I think that's good, guys. Let's move on. We've got the Portland Trailblazers versus the Denver Nuggets. Another game where there's another team in Portland who needs this game. They're still fighting to get into the playoffs. The Grizzlies, they keep losing. So this is another game must win for Portland. They need to win. What are we doing here with the Portland Trailblazers? And then talk about the Denver Nuggets and obviously the value if those guys end up missing. Tony.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't want to take too big a victory lap, but the last 2 times Denver played, they were a 6.5-point dog. We said they'd win outright both times. They won outright both times. They looked great both times. But I'm going against my boys today. I don't think Denver shows up today. I think Portland really shows up. They need the W a lot more than Denver does. Portland always plays Denver pretty good too, especially with Nurkic in there. Obviously, those people that haven't followed the NBA closely, like Nurkic was in Denver, had a lot of issues with the staff. He was buddies with like Jokic and stuff. They battled for the starting spots. They're kind of buddies, but Nurkic likes giving them the business too. So I like Nurkic a ton in this spot. And I think he's like very, very sneaky because no one's going to play Nurkic in that price range. He's looked really good, and you're playing a team with all bigs. So I think it's a really good Nurkic spot. And I just don't think, besides Porter, like I hardly ever say to fade Jokic, but on this slate where you have a ton of star power and I like Nurkic more, I just think it's a fade Jokic spot. And that says a lot for me because I really never fade Jokic. And if I was going to play Nuggets guys, obviously MPJ, he's too cheap. He needs the scoring. Even if they don't win, I think MPJ gets good run and crushes. But like I would never play like Millsap or Jeremy Grant, maybe Jeremy Grant because he is pretty cheap. But the one guy, so yesterday, PJ Dozier, my boy, he looked really good. I think he scored 30 fantasy points or something. And then his price drops. He's only 3,100 today on DK. I don't really get it. And he's this is all assuming Jamal's out, by the way. Obviously, if Jamal's in, I'm not as interested in PJ Dozier. But if Jamal's out again and you only got Monte and PJ Dozier, I just think you have to consider him. He's 3,100 and he's been playing minutes. They like him. I just don't see any reason. And if it somehow blows out Portland's way, PJ could get extended run and really dominate for you in tournaments. So obviously you need to pay attention to the Jamal Murray news like we all do. But if he's out, I definitely love PJ Dozier. And if not, if Jamal ends up playing and you can't play Dozier, you got tons of pivots in this next game. So you don't have to like be scared that you're going to get stuck with a guy you don't want because we can pivot to a bunch of guys in the next game.
I just saw in the chat that someone said Budenholzer said that his starters should see normal minutes today.
Your golfer said that?
Nope, someone in chat.
Busenhosen. You said Busenhosen said
Busenhosen.
Your golfer. What do you mean?
Budenholzer, whatever his name is. I got the golfer in my head, though. That's for sure. I got the Budenhosen in my head. Whatever. Bucks head coach. How's that? Is that better?
I'm just making it. You didn't get my joke. It's not funny when you don't get my joke.
No, I don't like your joke because you're making fun of my guy, too. You're making fun of my guy.
Bazudenholtz.
I love how we all say it like 4 different ways, too, and no one's right. That's the best.
But we all know who we're talking about. That's all that matters. Everyone knows.
That's right. That's right. So, I mean, does that make you guys a little more interested in the Bucks at all? Just real quick.
I mean, not really, just because I know, like, if they get that big lead, yes, if the game's close, yeah, they'll play their normal minutes. I expect that. But to me, the normal minutes for Giannis is like 30, 31. They're not going to push these guys. Like, when you know, James Harden in a close game is going to play, 38 minutes. Luka's going to play 38 minutes. I just could not imagine clicking on the name Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yes, he can get there in 30 minutes and beat those guys. I'm not saying he can't, but there's just way more risk with him than those other guys. So, I mean, I can't see the case to play him over any of the studs on this slate, including Anthony Davis.
So the way Hoop's saying it, Tony, is pretty much just the security of the fact that those guys are going to play more minutes, and we know they'll play more minutes. But does that make Giannis a good tournament pivot? Because we know they're still going to send him out there for probably about 30, 32 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, you can play Giannis anytime. And I've been on the wrong side of it sometimes, too, where you feel like he's going to blow out, and then he scores like 60 in 25 minutes on you. So the fade technically might have been right, but he still gets 60 in 25 minutes, so it ended up being a good pivot. So, yeah, I mean, like if I'm playing 10 teams, I'm going to play a little Giannis. You have to, just in case he falls into the nuts.
And we got more news. Apparently, someone in chat said Dragic is out. I'm gonna confirm on
out.
Twitter. But okay, so perfect. So I mean, let's just before we get to the late game, which we're all gonna obviously want to talk about. Let's talk about what this affects, because Hoop brought it up that he would like Kendrick Nunn a ton. But Hoop, is there anyone else you like now?
Yeah, I think it makes Nunn one of the better values on the slate. Good price, going to have a big role here. I mean, it bumps up Bam, it bumps up Jay Crowder, it bumps up Hero. I mean, it bumps up all these guys. It's like I said earlier, it's just going to be a matter of mixing and matching. I'd probably consider Nunn a part of like a core for cash now. I think you're going to want to play Nunn very cheap on both sites, and just he can get buckets. We want guys that can get buckets if they're cheap.
Any other Heat, though, that you like now for sure you like with this news besides
him? I like Hero. I mean, Hero's cheap. I definitely want to play him a little bit. I think Jay Crowder's 4K on FanDuel. He's in the conversation. It's just going to be mixing and matching and trying to get these studs in and get the proper fit. But, Nunn I think would be a core. I'm very interested in Bam still, specifically on DK. I mean, I think you can play him power forward and center. Maybe not. Maybe it's just center.
So
go ahead.
So this is how I would look at it here is I do think Kendrick Nunn gets a big bump. He's going to be very popular now. I think if you're looking at it from the basketball situational standpoint, you are going to see that now they just lost their backup point guard, because that's what Dragic is technically. Even though he mainly gets more run sometimes than Nunn, he's their backup point guard. So they lose the second unit point guard. Who's the guy who steps in? It's going to be Andre Iguodala, who ends up handling the ball, I think, with no Jimmy Butler and with no, obviously, Dragic. So I think Iguodala gets a pretty big bump in tournaments. I think he's a sneaky pivot off of Hero and off of Kendrick Nunn, who I assume will get pretty good ownership now with this news. The other thing I will say is the one thing Milwaukee is really good at is packing the paint. And, obviously, like, they don't allow people to just get to the rim. They're really good rim defense. And they give up a ton of threes because of that. Because they pack the paint, they're a great defensive team. But it's just the way their defense is they don't allow people to get in. They will not allow you to just attack the rim and get to the hole. So it forces teams to kick the ball out, and teams end up shooting more 3-pointers against them because of it. And so if they're going to get more looks, I mean, that's going to give Crowder, Hero, Iguodala. So shooters are going to be a little better, I think, in this matchup. And Milwaukee hasn't really looked that great defensively anyways in this bubble. I mean, the Nets with nobody in the first half kind of hung in, right? I mean, right, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of throw that game out just to be honest, because I mean, both sides.
That first half out.
I mean, they knew going in they weren't going to play. Like, I throw stuff like that out. Like, they didn't come to play. I mean, they knew they were going to sit. I guarantee going in they said we're going to play the first half. I mean, you can take whatever you want from it. I didn't take much from that. But the point is, I don't really think they have anything to play in any of these games. So I just don't see the motivation with a team like Milwaukee. And yeah, so I mean, the point still holds. I mean, even if they play the whole game, I want motivation this last, whatever it is, 10 days. I don't know. The playoff starts somewhere around 10 days from now, I think. I want motivation. I don't want guys because they could get pulled at any time too, like Hoop said. Maybe they get 30 minutes. Maybe they get 25. I mean, who knows? Maybe they get 35, but you just don't know. Like, I know for a fact teams like Dallas are going to play minutes. Teams like Portland are going to play minutes. Teams like Houston, when they're in there, should play minutes. They need wins. Milwaukee doesn't need wins. Lakers don't need wins. Denver really doesn't need wins. So I just want motivation, whether it's right, whether it's wrong. I mean, sometimes I'm going to be wrong with it, obviously, and teams are going to get extended run. But we only have to be right more than we're wrong, and we only have to hit that right combo a few times every month or so. So I just don't like Milwaukee in this spot. I mean, you have to get some Miami, though, like Hoop said, where none. I mean, is there anybody like completely off the radar here that we're not talking about?
Like I said, like Hero, Crowder. I think Crowder's a fine play. Played a lot of minutes. He just didn't do anything last game.
So are they only 8 deep though? Like I'm looking at this roster. Like, is there someone we're totally missing that's going to come in and like get minutes? Because they don't have any guards.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. I mean, I think Hero and Nunn.
Are they the only 2 guards though besides Iggy? Like Iggy isn't a guard
Duncan
anymore.
Robinson. Duncan Robinson's a good play.
Yeah, Duncan Robinson on FanDuel. He's 4,300 too. I much prefer him on FanDuel.
Who's going to create shots though for a guy like Duncan Robinson?
I mean, that's their issue. Is I think Bam's going to have the ball in his hands a lot at the top too. Forgetting, not that he's going to be able to create shots, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, he's not going to create shots with Giannis on him, though.
No,
Giannis is going to shut him down.
Think about it, though. I think it's, Iguodala ends up running the offense, at least the second unit. I think he's their best shot at running the offense. Like, I think he's better than Kendrick Nunn. I don't think that, even though I think Kendrick Nunn's decent, I don't think he can just create opportunities for everyone on the court. Like, I don't think he's that good. So I don't know. It's a tough spot, right? Like I don't know if I want to have more than 1 or 2 Heat guys in my lineup. Like I think I would make like
they
even
might
if I
get
was
pounded. Like this could be like a 30 or 40 point game. Like
yeah. See, but even in those games though, you could still roll out a Hero at 3,600. And he's going to get minutes regardless because, like you said, they have no guards. Like they don't.
There's got to be someone on this bench that is going to get minutes, and I just don't see who it is. It's got to be one of these guys.
Derek Jones Jr.
I'm talking like a guard. There's got to be some guard that we're not seeing on the roster.
Hero, man. Hero's a really good play.
I like Hero for sure, and he'll get some time run too.
Yeah, he's a strong play.
I'll say he's decent off the dribble too. Out of all these guys they have, I mean,
especially for Whitey, like Whitey's usually can't create. He can create a little bit.
Yeah, no,
he might end up being the best play on this team now. I mean, I still do like Iggy, but I think Hero. I think we might have talked us all into Hero as maybe the better play in this
Iggy
whole
too,
team.
man. If this game gets out of hand, he is not playing scrub time. I guarantee that. He's going to be right on that bench.
I think Iggy is like a stack-only play. You stack this game up, you play Iggy, I think, because Iggy's going to play if this game is close 28 minutes. Like, that's pretty good for 3,300. We'll take 28 minutes, but I don't know. We'll see if this game stays
Iggy is going to – I'll say this. Iggy is going to be a very tough play on this slate. There's so many cheap dudes.
It's all right. You play Brad Wanamaker at 1%. You can do whatever you want, Tony. You're feeling it right now.
I'm not feeling Iggy. I'll be honest. I'm not feeling Iggy.
No, I bet you're just feeling the cheapies right now. Come on.
I am feeling the cheapies
here. All right, so let's move on. By the way, we did get Malcolm Brogdon news. He is in. He's available to play. So I already kind of addressed that. I'm probably not going to play one of the 2 guards in the same lineup. It'll be one for me. So let's move on. We got the Lakers versus the Rockets. Late night hammer, man. The late night hammer has not treated us well the last 2 days.
I think it's going to make up for it tonight.
I think so too, Tony. I'm really hoping. But let's start off here. I mean, the Lakers, they lose LeBron. Dwight Howard was out last game. I assume he's back. He's probable now. Alex Caruso is questionable. Man, if Alex Caruso doesn't play, are they going to roll out Quinn Cook as a starting point guard? Like, Tony, talk to me about this game.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many cheap plays in this game that I want to backload a lot of my lineups. I know it's easy to say, too, because it's going to be a big total. It's going to be 2 teams with stars and cheap plays, so it makes sense. But I really want to wait and see who's active, see who's out, see who's in, see who's starting. And you have so many options that, I mean, even at 8 o'clock, if you wait till 8, that Denver game, you got a bunch of guys you can play in that game. And just get as much info as you can where, I mean, who knows who starts? Like if Deion Waiters starts, he's 3,700 against Houston. I hate Deion Waiters, but he's going to chuck. That's the one thing you know about Deion Waiters. 3,700 against a team that runs and guns. I mean, I would never play Danny Green in this spot, even though he's 3,200. He isn't doing it for me. I'm not playing Danny Green. And he's another guy too, that if they're tanking a game, like he's not going to play any minutes. So I don't know. Like, I like guys like Deion Waiters, Quinn Cook. Yeah, like Quinn Cook is 3K. If he gets the start, this is what I'm saying about waiting for news. If he starts at 3K, like, I don't know how you don't play him against Houston. This is the Brad Wanamaker. Whoever gets the start at point guard is the play, because Caruso's 3,400. Obviously, he's the play. And you can even play a bench guy, whoever doesn't, because these guys are going to get minutes. Say Caruso's in. Him and Quinn Cook are going to handle all the point. I mean, Deion Waiters can handle the ball a little bit too, but all these guys are good plays. There's no way they're not, and I don't care if they don't start. Maybe you play the guy that comes off the bench just because he's lower owned, and then you flip it to the other side. We got Harden, and you know the Lakers are probably going to double him like they always do when Westbrook's out, which is going to mean Austin Rivers, who's 3K, wide open all night. McLemore, 3,100, wide open all night. House, 4,900 wide open. Jeff Green, 39 wide. All these dudes are going to be wide open all night, and they're just so cheap that, like, how do you not play Austin Rivers and Ben McLemore at 3K and 3,100? How do you not play those guys? They're going to get easy buckets all night with Harden getting double teamed. It's just too easy. Harden's a lock, obviously. I don't. There's no way you can't fade Harden on this slate. There's just no reason to. So, I think you need 3 or 4 Houston on all your teams and run it back with AD and maybe 1 or 2. Everyone in this game's in play. Whoever's in is in play.
So Tony just built the optimal for you guys. Just play Austin Rivers, Ben McLemore, James Harden, Anthony Davis, Alex Caruso, or Quinn Cook, whoever starts, and boom. That's the optimal.
And you play one stud earlier in the day, whoever your stud is earlier. Yep. Giannis or Luka or Nurkic
see how
or
easy
any
it
of
is?
those guys.
It's just simple, right? That's how easy it is to make the optimal lineup. And, not everyone's going to do it, so you're not going to tie with anyone because that's just how it works, right, Tony?
And if you build that, like, I honestly you probably won't win a tournament, but you probably will profit. I'll say that. Like, you'll probably cash with that. You probably need to do something a little different to be able to win. Like, maybe you play, like we said, Tyler Hero and none early, and then you get rid of 1 or 2 value guys in this game. But I do think that, I mean, I'll be interested to hear what Hoop says here, because these guys seem like deadlocks to me. I just don't see a way to fade them.
Yeah, Hoop, let's talk about this game. I assume you're going to have a lot of interest in this game.
Yeah, I mean, more so on the Rocket side, like Tony said, you're going to want 3 or 4 of those guys. Harden's a lock. I mean, you just play him on the slate. No reason not to. And then these other guys are so cheap. I mean, the 3K price tag on Austin Rivers, 3-1 on Macklemore. I mean, there's just no way both those guys bust. One of them's going to have a big game. House just playing great. I mean, House is playing fine, like awesome. So definitely like him as well. I mean, throw Covington into the mix. I know he's a little more expensive, but he's going to be lower owned because people are going to play those cheap guys over him, but he could put up a big game. Obviously, he contributes all across the board. And then, on the other side, same thing. I mean, if Caruso's in, I think he's a great play. Anthony Davis, obviously a great play. But honestly, on the Lakers side, that might be just about it. Like, I don't know. Like, they scare me a little bit just because the motivation. I agree with Tony. Like, I want motivated teams that I know are going to play and want to win. Like, Lakers are lacking motivation, and their play is showing it. Like, it's just blah right now. So, yeah, but I'd like Caruso, I'd like AD, and I love all those guys. Tony mentioned Jeff Green, throw him in the mix. I mean, they're all, like he said, they're all going to be out there jacking up threes, like tons of threes, fast-paced game. So, yeah, it's a great spot.
I do think one thing you can do to be different is pretend the Lakers are just going to kind of punt this game and not play AD in your stack too. Like, play 4 Houston guys. We always talk about the run back. JSU's been talking about it all show. Normally I agree, but this could get you a little contrarian. Like, we play Giannis over AD somehow. Like, literally no one's going to do that. So all of a sudden, say Giannis falls into a good script early, puts up 60 or something. AD gets limited. Maybe Houston just blows them out. Maybe Houston crushes the Lakers tonight, which is definitely in the realm of possibilities. And AD only plays 20 minutes. All of a sudden, all those people that late stacked with AD, you already got your 60 up with Giannis or Luka or any of these other stars that you want to throw in that bucket, Kawhi. Paul George, any of the stars, you put them in over AD and you get that 60 locked up or even that 50, and you run into a blowout late, which Harden will still get there because Houston needs to win. If they blow him out, you better believe Harden's going to have a big game. So I think you can get a little different by fading AD.
Yeah, I mean, so I was going to say that's pretty much what I'm thinking in tournaments is I might play like, either Caruso or Cook, whoever starts at point guard. And then after that, maybe I'll play some Kuzma, and I might just fade the Lakers side after that and fade AD in some of my stacks just to be a little different. Because I think Tony's right, like 100%. That is the way. I see a realm where AD only plays 30 minutes. The Lakers might end up getting crushed, or they might just limit them to 30 minutes anyways. They said, Vogel said that he doesn't want to sit these guys, even on back-to-backs, but that doesn't mean he's going to just roll them out for a ton of minutes. So I think that means like Kuzma might get a little more run. And like I said, whoever starts at point guard, I'm going to like maybe Dion Waiters. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I might take some cheap pieces of the Lakers, 2 or 3, and I might stack them with, Harden and, the rest of my core pieces and, a couple of cheap guys from the Rockets and hope that that's what happens. Hope AD doesn't see huge minutes. Like I think he sees 30 and, maybe this game could still somehow stay close with the Lakers bench guys.
I will say one thing too. Like, I don't think anyone's going to play JaVale McGee. And the other night, the Houston gave up so many just easy buckets to Nurkic where he just turned and just laid it in. If this game truly doesn't matter, they could run JaVale out there 20 minutes and he could get 40 fantasy points because they just let him have dunks and layups and boards. I don't think anyone's going to play JaVale McGee as their value guy, but he's 3,400. You have so many options in this game. You can get super creative because a lot of things can happen in this spot.
Yeah, I agree. Hoop, anything else on this game?
No, I mean, it's another late night hammer where you're definitely going to want some PMR. You're definitely going to want some minutes left or not going to be a fun ride to sit this one out.
All right, well, I just got, pushed a little bit. Guys, we got 314 people watching this live, and we got 96 likes. I mean, that's better than normal, Tony. I mean, that's actually kind of impressive. I haven't said one thing about hitting the like button.
People like that gear.
But guys, come on, we need to get this up.
It's always got to get halfway. Like I say, the halfway rule always.
Yes, 150 is what we need.
Yeah. That's only one out of every 2. That's reasonable. Maybe you're at work. You're just listening on the phone. You don't have to give the like when you're like that. But if you're sitting here watching it, half the people got to be able to click that like button. There they go. Look at them all go.
There it is.
You holding the hat up? Is that what they're winning today, that hat?
That's what they're winning today.
Yeah, look at those likes. Come on. Somebody wants that hat. Look at them come in here.
People want the hat.
I mean, they're coming on quick. I might give out 2 hats as quick as these puppies are coming in.
Ooh, we might even give out 2 hats. I love it.
I mean, that was a quick boost rate. That was 50 in a hurry.
Well, if we can get to 200, we could probably do 2, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I might even put a shirt in if we get to 200.
Shirt and a hat. Look at that.
Getting me excited. I don't know. I mean, we're gonna have a hard time getting to 200 unless the chat just gets things going.
I mean, they might. That was a
big boost in a hurry.
That was quick. That was a quickie.
That was. So anything else? I think we hammered home, everything on this slate really. Let's just kind of pick one game that we're going to be really heavy on. For me, it's going to be the late game. I'm going to be extremely heavy on that. Tony?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say. It's definitely going to be the late game as far as exposure, but I really can't even see a pivot spot. I honestly, NBA, we talk about pounding the chalk. I think the way I'll get different is just kind of like I said, maybe fade AD on my team and play a different star. But, I mean, bare minimum, I want 5 pieces in the late game. I think minimum I want 5. I mean, JSU always makes fun of me for playing too many guys in the game. How many guys while we're getting to 200 likes here, tell me how many guys is too many for me tonight, JSU?
All right. So I've explained this before, but I'll explain it again. So it comes down to who we're taking in our stack. So these two games here, this game here, we have a ton of value pieces. We do have Harden and AD who are expensive, but outside of them, maybe there's a Covington you like, but really that's it. Everyone else is pretty cheap. So I would say that if you're taking 3 cheap guys and 1 stud from one side, I'm totally fine with that. That would be 4 from one side. I'd roll it back with only 2 from the other if I went 4 from one side. So like for me, I think the Rockets are perfect for this kind of stack because I can get James Harden and then I can kind of mix and match Macklemore, Rivers, Jeff Green, maybe Daniel House. I can kind of mix them together, maybe throw a Covington in there, depending on if I have Luka paired in my James Harden lineup. If I don't have Luka paired, it'll probably be easier for me to get Covington. So that's kind of how I look at it. And from the Lakers side, if I do that, then I would be looking at like a Kuzma in one of those guards. It would be Caruso or Waiters, maybe Quinn Cook if he's the one who starts, if Caruso's out. I think honestly, though, like if we get a scenario where Quinn Cook is the starter and Caruso is available to play still, I think I would still
that's
like
not even
Caruso.
possible to happen, is it? Like if he's
know.
available, he's going to start.
I mean, you would assume, right?
Yeah.
I'm just saying for a scenario, like I still would like Caruso. I honestly would rather that scenario because then Caruso would come in lower owned. I think everyone would pivot to Cook. But I again, like you said, I don't think that's what's going to happen. But I can hope for it at least, right, Tony?
And I think Quinn Cook's going to be a good play either way, honestly. If they start Caruso and Quinn Cook comes off the bench, that's another sneaky play. Play whoever the point guard is that's not starting, and you'll get him super low on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so I say 6 from this game, Tony, would be the max I would do. And again, it'd be value. It'd be at least 4 value pieces. It would be in the stack if I'm doing 6. Because then I'd be getting like Luka and Harden paired together for sure. You know what I mean? Like, which is what I want, I think, on this slate.
What about JR Swish? Can we play JR on this slate? Is he fine? Because he's going to be chucking.
I think I'd rather Waiters. He's just looked like.
Can we play them both?
If Caruso's out, I'll say yes.
Because someone's got to shoot for this team. Like someone's got to get that ball up.
I mean, I don't know. I think Kuzma's going to jack up shots.
Yeah, Kuzma's gonna chuck.
He's gonna chuck.
Kuzma,
I mean, I don't know.
I think Kuzma's a solid play. Now you mentioned that,
and they're gonna run him. I could see a scenario where he plays a little 5 just because of how small Houston likes to go. If they didn't want to, when AD's out, if they didn't want to roll out like Dwight Howard against the small lineup. Even though I think Dwight Howard would absolutely feast against this small lineup, kind of like Nurkic. I mean, that's another play. Like, if Dwight Howard got 20, if you were to tell me Dwight Howard was getting 20 minutes, I think I would lock him in. Like, honestly, that's how, like, this Houston team could not guard Dwight Howard. And with LeBron, like,
they wouldn't even try to guard him. Like, they would just let him go.
Yeah, he would get alley-oop dunks, like, constantly. Like, they'd just be lobbing the ball up to him. And then chucking shots because he'd get the rebounds and he'd get the putbacks. But again, I think if you're 150ing, if you're MMEing, and Dwight Howard is a guy I would have a little taste of, right, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, I literally I'm okay with anyone that's going to be active in this game. I mean, everyone's so cheap. I really don't think any of them. I take that back because I forgot Danny Green's in the game. I think Danny Green's a bad play. I think like Markieff Morris is probably a bad play. I think.
What about KCP?
KCP's probably a bad play. I want these guys that. Who?
I was gonna say I'll take some PJ Tucker. We didn't mention him. I'll play him too.
Yeah, like the Houston guys are definitely all in play. The Lakers are where I'm a little uneasy about them just because you don't know.
Who would you prefer, PJ Tucker or Jeff Green, if you had to decide? Because they're both, I think it's basically
literally the same play.
Yeah.
Whoever hits their open threes is going to score more points.
He's going to score, yeah. Well, I was just saying. So would you take PJ Tucker, though?
I'd probably take Tucker.
I'd probably take Tucker.
His minutes are guaranteed, but it's literally the same play, though. Like, it just flip. Whoever's lower owned is who I would take.
I'll tell you one thing. I don't think people are going to play them both together.
And they're going to get wide open shots all night. So, if they make their shots, they're going to get there.
Yeah.
No one's playing them together, though. You're right about that. Because Jeff Green's only eligible at center for some reason.
Well, that's what I mean. They're both only center eligible. So, I mean, again, another way, if you want to make your stacks different, everyone's going to stack this game. If you want to make your stacks different, I mean, Jeff Green is definitely in play, but play Jeff Green and PJ Tucker together. Everyone's going to play Rivers. Everyone's going to play McLemore. Daniel House is going to get some ownership. I think Covington might be the one, honestly, that maybe gets left out just because of where his price is. On FanDuel, he's a lot easier to get in, but I think on DraftKings, when they see Michael Porter Jr., Robert Covington, I mean, I think I would go with Michael Porter Jr. if I had to choose between those two. Who would you go with if you could get Bobby Covington or Michael Porter Jr.?
Oh man, that's tough. Probably Covington, but I mean, I like Porter Jr.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I don't hate on that. That's just where we differ a little bit. Tony, who would you go with?
I mean, I'm taking MPJ for sure, unless if Jamal Murray or one of these other guys is in, I'd probably play the Houston guy. But if not, MPJ, Portland has no one to guard him either. MPJ is going to go off again unless one of those dudes plays.
All right, I got to do this one more time because we're at 163 likes. We got 312 people watching live. Let's get to 200. Come on, I want to give out a few of these. Let's go. We need some more. You guys want this RPS hat? Not this one. This is mine, but we'll get you some. You know what I mean? I'll have Big T sign it for you too. We'll give you a Big T edition. We'll give you a Big T signed edition. RPS hat.
Oh, that's funny.
I mean, I don't know if we're going to get there. I don't know.
It was a good effort, though. We were only at 90. They got up to $170. I mean, they did good. I mean, it is what it is. We can't give all the gear out on one show. If they got to 200, they'd have got 2. I mean, it's golden. We'll give out a hat. Right. You want to pick somebody?
Yeah, Big T pick someone because we're getting rushed by our producer to hurry this show up. So, Big T.
Let's scroll up here. Let's see who's going to be the lucky winner today. Let me hold my mouse over it. We got Steve Becker. He said, "I've been trying for that swag every day. Yes, I'm due. You're due, baby. You were right. You're due, Steve Becker. Send me a message. I'll get a hat out to you. If you want me to sign it or Hoop to sign it, I'll let that happen. JS, if you want to sign it, you let us know. Slide into the DMs. We'll get you a hat. Thanks a lot for watching.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys for all tuning in. Make sure to tune in tomorrow. But again, for me, JSU, Big T, Hoop, we'll see you next.